Hello. So in this video we'll take the last step with our derivation system and getting it set up and talk about how to complete a derivation. So as we said, there are four kinds of moves. The first two are involved in setting up the derivation. First you enter the show line, show of the conclusion, and then you enter the premises with justification PR. After that, you want to move towards completing the derivation, and the first thing to do is to apply modus ponens, and you'll do that multiple times, and we'll be adding more inference rules, but right now just modus ponens. And then once you reach the conclusion, you box and cancel with direct derivation. And we've talked about the first three of those. Now I'm going to talk about the last one, boxing and canceling with direct derivation. So here's the derivation as it stood at the end of the previous video. We're trying to derive the argument P, and if P then Q, therefore Q. So we say show Q, we're trying to show the conclusion. We put in our two premises, P, and if P then Q. And finally we applied modus ponens to lines 2 and 3, and that gave us Q. And Q is what we want to get, and so it's almost done. We've obtained the conclusion, what we're trying to show, but now we need to just point that out. So how do we do that? So here's our derivation. So the first thing we do is, on the next line we write for DD. And 4 stands for direct derivation. Direct meaning we actually got what we're trying to show. We'll see other kinds of ways of ending a derivation besides DD, but right now it's DD. So we also cancel the show line. That indicates that we're no longer trying to show Q. We've established Q. And we put a box around the reasoning, and that indicates just this is the reasoning that we were using to show Q. And when we've done that, then the derivation is complete. And the derivation is complete when we box and cancel, and right now we have one method of boxing and canceling, DD. So in general, a direct derivation will look like this. The first line will be show box, where box is the conclusion of the argument, whatever the argument may be. And then we'll have more lines, which will be either premises, or it will follow from an earlier line so put in premises of the argument, or later lines in this sequence will have applied an inference rule to earlier lines. And right now we have only one rule, modus ponens, and eventually we'll get to box, and at that point we'll say, oh good, we're done, and we will apply DD. We'll cite the line for DD, and then we'll box and cancel. And that's what our derivations will all look like for now. So what are the rules for derivations to summarize them all? Well, so you can write any show line you want. The first line, however, must be a show, and it must be a show line of the conclusion. You can write premises wherever you want. They have to be premises of the argument you're trying to derive, but you can write them wherever you want. If you have a conditional and its antecedent on previous lines, you can apply modus ponens, and that lets you write the consequent of the conditional. And then once you get the arguments to conclusion, you apply direct derivation to box and cancel. And so that's it. Those are the rules that you can apply, and you apply them in that order, basically. And once you box and cancel, you've completed the derivation. So strategy is pretty straightforward. You put a show line for the conclusion, you put in the premises, you apply modus ponens until you get the conclusion, and then you box and cancel with direct derivation. So that's the derivation system, and we'll be expanding it, but that's the basic system. I will show you in the last video in this unit how to do a derivation, how to use the derivations module in the logic program to do a derivation, and we'll do a slightly more complicated derivation in demonstrating that. So I'll be going there now.